Hi there once again and welcome to another Expresso mechanic tutorial. And in this one we're going to be taking a look at collision triggered dynamic fracturing, which is what you're seeing on the screen here. Recently I was contacted by somebody and I cannot remember your name, so if you can tell me your name in the comments below this video I'll give you a shout out in the show notes. But anyway, I was recently contacted and asked if I could do this, and obviously from what you're seeing on the screen I can indeed. That's what we're going to be about in this tutorial, so without further ado, let's see if we can make this happen. We'll start by bringing in a couple of objects. We'll bring a sphere in first. Its radius we'll make 20, segments 60, and we'll make it an icosahedron. So that's the sphere set up. We can now bring in a cylinder, range it plus Z, radius 25, height 20, and we'll leave it with 4 height segments. It doesn't really make a lot of odds, and we'll give it 60 rotation segments. So we've got a couple of objects ready to go. Now the cylinder we're going to place into a Voronoi fracture, so we'll get a hold of one of those and drop our cylinder in. Now at the moment it's being fractured. We don't actually want that yet. We want it to be fractured a little bit later, but the Voronoi fracture here, we'll have a look in there and see what's going on. The fragments I will offset slightly. I'll make those offset by 1. That should be fine for us. We can leave just about everything else as it is. We'll just take a quick look at the point distribution. I think we'll have 40 points, and the distribution we will make exponential, and that means it starts from up here at the moment. That's fine. That'll give us the result I think we want, so I'm going to leave that like that for now. And we can also work with the axes, but I'm not going to bother to do that. If you wish to play around with them, then please do. But anyway, we've got things set up so far, and we'll just switch the Voronoi fracture off for now, because this is going to be controlled by Expresso and a little bit of Python. Okay, moving on from here, we need a couple of ramps that these things are going to travel down. So I'm going to switch to my front view, so F4. And we'll start thinking about building some ramps. I'll reach for my spline pen tool. We don't really need to worry about snapping, but we can use it if we wish, but I won't bother, I don't think. I'm just going to start drawing, so I'll put a couple of points here. Just draw this out a little bit. And this doesn't have to be absolutely specific at this stage. We can easily do some work with it. Probably put this somewhere up here, I think, and then we can think about what we're going to go and do next. Let's just move along here, and we'll go somewhere here, I think. Now, if I just hit my escape key, I can get my brush selection, select this, and just soft interpolate that. It just needs to be soft. So let's just make that soft. Okay, that's fine. This is a little bit too high. If we just bring this down somewhere here, and we can probably adjust this a little bit if we need to. Drag it out to here. I think that will be okay. It gives us a basic shape for a ramp, and that's fine. It should give us the result that we want. So now what we can do, we've got one spline. What we can do next is just go into our model mode here, and we can center the axis, the actual axes. I think I'll do that. So let's have a look here, center axis, and execute that. That's fine. And then all I need to do is command drag to copy, and then rotate this through 90 degrees. So if we go this way, just say 90, and then we can place this just roughly. I'll just switch to my top view, so F2, and we can see where we are. Just bring this somewhere in here. As I say, this is rough and it will be sorted out properly a little bit later on. But that gives us the basic start for our 2 ramps. We just need to create some sweep objects here with some profiles, and that'll be our next port of call. I'll bring in an arc. Its type actually wants to be ring, because we do want it to have effectively a wall. So we need to change the radius. This can be 23. The inner radius 18. Just hit O for object so that we can see this more clearly. The sphere I'm just going to switch off for a second. Its start angle needs to be 270. And it will finish at 90. That's okay. XY is fine for the profile, the actual plane that it's in. Okay, the next thing we can think about doing is sweeping this along our spline here, spline 1. So if I select both of these, hold down Command and Option, and then drop them into a sweep, that gives us it, but we can see that it's upside down. The way we can fix that is to Command drag this spline to create another one. We'll just call this rail. And in our sweep here, we've got the second rail being used. Now all we need to do is just move it. Let's just get a hold of the rail here and just move this, and we can see that it will do the job. So we've got it there, and we can just move it into position. If I go up here, that's what I need to do. I need to. I always find this a little bit tricky, but if we make this, just move until it's over there, that's fine. We can see that that's doing what it needs to do. If we can just put that as a 0, actually. Let's see where we are now. Slightly off. It actually wants to be in the middle of the thing, doesn't it? Somewhere lining up with that. So that's pretty much in the correct place. I think that looks okay. I mean, it's by eye, but it looks pretty good. So let's just see where we are. If we bring the sphere back in, we probably need to go a little bit bigger. We can probably move the spline rail just a little bit higher, just to make this bigger. Yeah, and that sphere will sit in there okay, I think, now. So if we bring the sphere up to the top, it's going to be somewhere in there. If we go to our front view, so F4, we can just put this somewhere in about the correct place there. Okay, great. And we can move it back a little bit further so that it's got a start position just about where we want it. Okay, great. So we've got it that far. The next thing to do with this sweep, we'll call this left ramp. And we can add a dynamics tag to it. So let's go to our bullet tags, collider body. We'll add that for now. And we'll also add a dynamics tag to our sphere. That will be a rigid body. Let's just see what we get if we just run the sequence. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and we can see that that's working okay. We haven't got enough frames. If we just give ourselves 300 frames for now, and let's just see what happens. And we can see it's going to work, can't we? That's looking really good. I mean, I think we'll probably make an adjustment on the spline here. I think down at the bottom here, it could just maybe have a little bit of an adjustment. So let's just go to our right-hand view. So F3, and we'll just take a look at this. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit harsh. So if we select this point here, and we can perhaps draw this in a little bit. if we can. So can we just bring that in a little bit? That's, well, maybe not bring it in. Maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe we need to make it slightly bigger actually. And possibly bring it upwards a little bit. Let's have a look, see what we're getting now. That's not very nice, is it? That's very ugly. Let's go into our top view, so F2 object, and just take a look at it from here maybe. I just want to bring those two in, so if I just bring that in that way. Let's have a look. Yeah, it only wants to be adjusted along the X, that's all we want to do. And then we can just move it up somewhere there. Let's try that. See if that gives us a slightly better result. It's still flying way up in the air, which is a bit strange. I don't really want that. Let's just bring this down a little bit. But you can see that you're going to have to make a few adjustments to this in order to get it to work. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. If I really need to, I'll just go off camera and do it by an edit. That's better. I think that's better. Could probably make it just a little better by dropping that down even further actually. Yeah, I'd go with that. To me, that's the result that I want. So that's looking good now. I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to say that's my first ramp complete. So now we need to work on our second one. I will need a profile. I'll bring one of those in and I'll just set it up. Just get one of these in. It will be a U-shaped profile with a height of 65, and we'll make B 40. S and T can be 5 each, so we'll make those like that. That gives us a basic shape, and we can leave the rest as it is. Before I actually sweep this, what I'm going to do is work with the spline and just make that more the shape that I want it to be. So I'll switch to my front view, so F4. Let's take a quick look at this and see what's going on. So we know that we want to bring that up a little bit, and we'll want to adjust the scale along the x-axis somewhere there, and probably drop this down somewhere here. And I think that will probably give us the result that we want. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, I think so. We can move that around if we wish, but I think we'll leave that as it is. So hopefully that will be okay. It looks smoother than it did. Right then, let's work with this profile. So we've got our spline, bring this up here, hold down Command and Option and drop them into a sweep. As per usual, we've got the same problem. We're upside down, but that's easy. We just Command drag to copy this spline, name it rail, and then we can work with it. So if we go into our model mode, we can just move it up until we get the profile of our ramp the way we want it. And then we can play around with our cylinder. We can just move this into here to give us an idea of whether or not we've got it the right sort of width. I think we're not far off. That looks pretty good to me. I think that will be okay for what we want. Yeah, that's going to be okay. So we can move the cylinder into place. Let's switch to our right hand view, and we can move this up here and just bring it to the middle somewhere there. And in our front view, hit H, we can just bring this over to here and raise it up a little bit. So that's just about ready to go, or at least we're ready for a try. We'll rename this right ramp, and we'll give it a collider body tag. We'll give the cylinder a rigid body tag. And now let's see what happens if we give this a quick go. See if we get anything that's not quite. We not at the moment. Now that's probably because we need to play around with the friction on our collision here. We've probably got too much friction. If we take that down to something like maybe 50, and we can also do the same with our ramp here. We've got 100% friction. We don't want that much. We can take that down to 50, and the bounce we can put at 5. Just see, you know, you're going to have to do some playing around with this to get it to work exactly as you want it to, but that's close, isn't it? It's not 100% perfect, but it is close. So, you know, it is basically a case of fine-tuning this stuff. The inherit tag, we can take that off of there and we can switch this to off, because there's no point in having those on. There's no children, so we'll leave those off. Let's have a look at what we've got on our cylinder here. Now, automatic, let's change that to convex hull. And we'll see what happens now if we just have a quick go. That's better. That's giving us a better result. That's a much better result than we were getting before. Yeah, I mean, that's good. So what I'll probably do is, with this ramp here and Voronoi fracture and cylinder, what we'll do is move them. So I'll command select that and we'll just move this back a little bit. Just adjust this over here. And let's just see what we get now. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad at all. I'm quite liking that. We obviously need to set things up so that our two objects are actually going to collide with each other, and that's going to be the next step for us. Clearly, the sphere needs to be delayed before it actually launches. So the way we can do that is to select our tag here. Where we've got enabled, if we just disable that and record at point 0 or frame 0, and now we'll move forward. Let's try, I don't know, 40 frames, and we'll enable there and record again, and let's see what happens now. Right, well, it's not quite there, is it? Let's just bring this forward a little bit more. Try 45 frames and let's see what happens now. Well, it's affecting the way the cylinder is reacting, but that's not a problem. It looks as if it still could go a little bit further to me. Let's just go. Let's try 47 frames. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so we're rolling. And now we're hitting. It's being hit underneath, but we are colliding. So that's the main thing. We can always adjust a little bit and see if we can get them to collide, perhaps with the sphere hitting them somewhere near the middle of the cylinder. But that, again, it's probably this ramp. If we can do a little bit of work on there and just move points around. Let's just bring this up a little bit, possibly bring this one down a little bit. Let's just see if that makes any difference. Well, it has made a difference, but not a positive one. Let's just bring that back to where it was and see what happens now. Yeah, I mean, it's perhaps a better hit there than it was before. I mean, another thing we could also do is move. Let's move our left ramp. If we get a hold of that and then command select the sphere and move them both a little bit along the z-axis there, and let's just see what happens now. I mean, it's all about fine-tuning. Yeah, it's still hitting it underneath. But that's what the name of the game is. It's just about fine-tuning and just getting things set up exactly the way you want them with the dynamics. That's better. That's a great hit there. Okay, fantastic. That's the point at which I'm going to leave this and say that that bit of it is set up. So the next thing that we need to do then is worry about the controlling, or the control of, I suppose, the Voronoi fracture. We need to switch this on as soon as these two objects have collided. And that's what we're going to be doing next with Expresso and a little bit of Python. We'll bring in a null, rename it Expresso, and give it the Expresso tag. The editor's open and we're ready to start work. The first thing to do is to bring in the cylinder and the sphere, and at their output stages we can give them object ports. Moving on from here, we need a node that we've not looked at before. This is going to be one of the bullet nodes, and it will be the dynamics collision. Now, this is quite an involved node. There's quite a lot that we can do with this, a heck of a lot in fact, and I don't fully understand the way this all works yet, and it's a node that I may return to in the future when I've learned a little bit more about it. But for now, all we need to do is connect objects A and B, and then it will be the count here that we're interested in, and this counts the number of collisions that have been made between two objects at any given point along the timeline. So that's the one we're interested in. Now, as long as it's greater than 0, and if we just get a result node, we can see what's going on here. If we plumb it in, we can see that it is giving us 0. Okay, and as soon as it's greater than 0, that's all we're going to be interested in. So let's just get rid of the result. So the time has come to bring in a couple more nodes. For a start, we'll bring in a time node because we will be using one of those. And as per usual, I will remove, or I'll add a frame and then I'll remove the time. So we've got that ready to go. Just place it up there. And now for the all important node, and that's going to be the Python node. So we'll come down to script, Python, bring one of these in, and then we're ready to start with the next step. As always, we'll remove all of the ports and start from scratch. And at the input stage, we need 2 integers, so we'll bring those in, and then we'll rename them. The top one we'll call frame, and interestingly enough, we'll take the frame output from the time node and plumb that in there. And then our bottom input here, we'll rename that one trigger. And this will be where we'll plumb in our count value. At the output stage, we'll bring in another integer and rename this one fracture. And that's all we need to do. They're set up and we're ready to start coding. We'll switch to a scripting layout and open in Python editor, and we're ready to go. So we've got global fracture in there. We can just take this line away. We can also add another variable called breakup. So break underscore up. Now then, we just need a few lines here. So we can say if frame is equal to 0. So when we're at the start of our animation, breakup is equal to an empty list. We can then say if trigger is greater than 0. So in other words, if we've got more than more than 0 collisions, if this is higher than 0, this will give us what we want. So if this is greater than 0, that means we will have collided. And we can then say if len breakup is greater than 0, no, I beg your pardon, is less than 1, breakup dot append. I still need those typing lessons. And it will be 1. I could put anything in there, but I'm just going to put 1 in there. I can then say if len breakup is equal to 1, fracture equals 1, else fracture equals 0. So once we've got something in breakup, so once there's been a collision, we can output a 1 here, and that will enable us to switch on the Voronoi fracture. And that's what we're going to do. So we need to bring the Voronoi fracture in, and in the basic properties menu we have enabled. Select that, plumb this in here, and that is our expression complete. That's as much as we need to do. So there it all is. So we've got the Expresso and we've got the Python code here. Very, very simple. Okay, fantastic. The reason we need the Python is because if we just use this output here and we plumb this straight into here, as soon as the collisions are over, it would switch the Voronoi fracture off again, and we don't want that. We want to use this to make sure that it stays on as soon as there's been a collision. Okay, let's have a quick test and see if anything works. Right, so we've got a definition error in line 17. Let's have a look and see what we've got here. I can see what we've got. We've spelt that wrong. If len, break up, that's what that should be. Just a simple syntax error. Right, let's see what happens now. And now we can see that we're getting the Voronoi fracture switched on. If we just play that through again, we'll just see that. We'll pause it at the correct time. Yeah, and there's our Voronoi fracture. It's switched on, but the object isn't breaking up yet because it's not dynamic. So the Voronoi fracture just needs a dynamics tag, and we can command drag this one. No, don't want that one, just the dynamics. That's good. And now we can see that the cylinder object explodes, and that's doing exactly what it needs to. And that just about brings us to the end of this tutorial, because I've shown you the techniques that we need to use in order to get this to happen. It's just this combination of a few Expresso nodes here and a little bit of Python code in conjunction with the dynamics tag here in order to make things work. That's really all it is. You know, quite a simple technique really when you get down to it. But anyway, we've achieved what we set out to in this tutorial. And of course you can take things a little further and put a floor in and give it a dynamics collider body tag and set that up for yourself and have a play around with that. But yeah, I mean, from my own point of view, I've shown you what I wanted to show you. So that does just about finish this tutorial. And as always, I really hope you've enjoyed this one and that you've got some ideas for some techniques that you can use within your own projects. And if you have enjoyed the video, then please give it a like, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and of course ring the bell. And wherever you happen to be on social media, then please do share this video, because all this good stuff really does help keep the channel moving in the right direction. But anyway, that about brings the curtain down on this one, so I'll see you very soon on the next tutorial.